Hello Flosstube, and welcome to another video. Can we believe another month has flown by? It has. I know that there was quite a bit of the US that was in the grips of a nasty winter storm, I guess the best way I can describe it. Yeah, it was nasty. I mean, we didn't get anything here. Mostly the West Coast, I don't think really got anything. But, I mean, even the South. So, some of Texas and possibly, I didn't see where everything went. If it was Louisiana and Alabama and everything. And then all the way up to the Northeast. Just got hammered with either snow or ice or a combination of stuff. And it's been very cold. In fact, my mom lives in kind of central Texas, and it is far colder there than it is here in Oregon. So weird. She moved so she could be warmer, and it's not getting warmer. She's not getting any warmer. So yeah, fun things going on there. Anyway, it's actually pretty pleasant here in Oregon. Pacific Northwest is pretty mild temperatures most of the time. You know, Central Oregon sometimes gets a little more snow and stuff like that, but for the most part, because we're along the ocean, we get the moderate temperatures for the most part. Yeah, so it's been pretty nice here, and just, you know, we could go out and go for walks. The rain finally has ceased a bit, so it's not been quite as rainy here. But yeah, it's been kind of nice. I'm so glad we're not in the grips of ice like we were last year. A year ago, we had a massive storm that just shut our town, the whole Portland metro area down because it was so bad. And I'm glad it's not here now. So yeah, we've got a little bit of life update stuff. Kind of some hopes that I have for spring and the summer, you know, things like that, as well as lots of stitchy stuff. I didn't feel like I did a lot of projects. I put my hands on a couple of projects, just a tiny little bit, and then a lot of work on a few others. So that kind of is how we're going to end up proceeding. First of all, I want to say hello, as I've been trying to do to a couple of people. It doesn't always work, but most of the time it's been working since I started doing this. So, hello to Linda Warner. She is in our neck of the woods up in Washington. So, she's a lovely lady. I've met her. And then to Stacy Alexander. She is the 911 Stitcher. If you've watched her or followed her in any fashion, she's also on the West Coast. It just happens to be that I ended up picking people on the West Coast. I didn't do it on purpose. It just kind of happened to be that way. So hello, Stacy. Hopefully you're having, I know she was planning to go on a little vacation type of trip. And hopefully that went well and you had a lovely time. And then one extra little thing, because it's going to be coming up here this month and I won't be back for another video until afterwards, is a happy birthday to Amy from Amy Loves Toads. Her birthday is closer towards the end of February, but this is a nice little early happy birthday if she watches it beforehand. And of course, if you guys don't know that, then maybe you can go over and send her a little happy birthday later on too. So yes, hello and happy birthday to all those people. Let's get into some stuff, and then we'll do more life update stuff later, because there's not a lot. Sometimes that can kind of ramble on, but there's not a lot. Okay, so I guess I'll do the two that I did either just a little bit of work or not a ton of work on. And one of those, and I literally maybe worked on it one or two times this last month, was this one. So this is the Peaceful Shores. And this is one that I am, let's see which side I need to be on here. I'm not doing it all the way to the edge because the fabric that came with this is not wide enough. If I started in the right spot, which I started in the middle, so I don't know how I could have messed that up. It's not wide enough here. It seems like it might be tall enough because I do have some space at the bottom because I've reached the bottom with where the charted stitches are, and there's still extra space. So if that's the case, if I start in the right spot, I'm going to have enough room at the top for all of this, and I won't have to kind of come down a little bit, which would be nice because then I can put all the words that are in there and not have to monkey around, unless I have to cut this off, and then I may have to adjust them over a little bit or something. So let's see. I probably need something behind this so you can see well enough. So yep, you can see. So I've gotten over here. This is not all the way to the edge. You can see there, it'll go a little bit farther, but quite a bit there. And then all the way down to the bottom there is where the bottom of the chart is. And a little bit above that, you can see there's quite a bit of space above the lighthouse. So there's enough room top and bottom, but there's not as much room side to side. So, and I purposely left enough room for finishing, so that's why it doesn't run right up to that edge there. But that's what it looks like so far. Really nice. This is just a chart. Janlin, I think, is the name. Let me see here, right there. This was just from Walmart. It's nothing super fancy or special. It's just something. I did not have any stitching project with me, heaven forbid, and I wanted to have something, so I just happened to be at Walmart and stopped and got it, and it's been a lovely little chart so far. The next one that I have gotten, it seems like I've gotten a lot of work on it, but I haven't worked on it for a while, like maybe right after I filmed the last time, and then I haven't really worked on it a lot since then. So it was this one, and this is the Mill Hill, and it's called Frosty Morning. So you stitch some of the birds, and then one of those is a button, so you can see that. And let me move some of my thread so it's out of the way. Here's what I've gotten done. So I've gotten a lot done, so I can kind of see. So I've got the lighter shade of the sun in there, and I have all of the snow that'll be on the branches to do, as well as those birds. And of course you do have a little bit of beading, but in this kit it's a lot of clear ones that'll go in the snow and a little bit of red that will be part of the birds. So yeah, that's what I've gotten done so far. Very nice. Fun little project. I like stitching on the perforated paper. Obviously I don't want a big giant project, but these small Mill Hill ones are perfect for that. Okay, I have, let me think how I want to do this. I think I'm going to show you a new start, and then I'll go to some of my whips. Where did they go? Okay, so a new start was this. Now, I have stitched this before, and I've stitched it on the red, and as you can see, it goes in one of these milk glass containers. So I'll show you up that close. You can use it for scissors or just have it decorative like that, maybe hold pins and stuff. It is called Tools of the Trade. Blackberry Lane Designs is who did this. And like I said, when I did it before, I did it on the size they recommended for the glass, as well as the color. This time I'm making it in a smaller one, so it's only, I think this is supposed to be 5 inches for diameter. The one I'm going to do it for is just over 3 inches. So it's quite a bit smaller. So I have to do a couple of things. I have to modify the pattern, so I'm not going to do it exactly the way it's printed. I'll use the motifs, but I'm going to put them in a little bit different order. And I am using a higher count fabric than they suggested so that I can make them small enough that they'll fit in that 3+ inch diameter frame for the milk glass container. So I'll show you what I have gotten done so far and give you all the information on the fabric. So teeny tiny, I am using a 40 count piece. So it is very tiny, and it's over 1. I am doing 1 thread over 1 because that's just the way I have to do it in order to make them fit. Otherwise, like these scissors, if I did it over 2, even on 40 count, would be too big, I think, to fit in the space I need. So everything is over one, very, very small details. Some of the things I'm going to leave out, like in this thimble, it said stitch in that space. And I think it's going to get too muddied because it's too tight of a space. And it's just going to be a pain to work. So I'm not going to put that in there. So as I mentioned, this is a 40 count. It is on Picture This Plus fabric called, I think it's Dwarf. So that's what I'm using. So I'm making it blue instead of the red. I want to do something a little different. So we'll see how that goes. I love the tininess of it and everything, but over one on 40 count is not my thing. I'm telling you right now. So I don't do it very often when I have to do those higher counts and it's over one thread. All right, let's do some whips that you have already seen. One I don't think I showed you last month, but I've gotten a lot done on these things. So the first one I'm going to show you is my update on how I've gotten onto this. So this is Temperature Butterflies by Stitchin' Mommy. You can get this chart on her Etsy site, I believe. So I'm trying to see if it says anything about it. I don't think it says it on here. But yeah, you can go look that up and get that if you want to. So you take the temperature. You can do it any way you want. Usually people take the high temperature for the day, and that's what they're going to record for the color that they put in that particular part of the wings. And each butterfly is a month. So here is what I have done so far. So this is January. I got all of January done, and obviously we're into February a little bit, so I have gotten some February. At the beginning of each month, I start outlining the next butterfly, so this will be the March butterfly. And I will show you up a little closer what all that looks like. So pretty. I changed the colors. I'm not using the ones that they recommended for their charts, and they have 3 different colorways. So if you live in a warmer temperature and you don't get as many cold temperatures, they have a range for that. Same way for a cold temperature, and then a moderate one. And there wasn't enough colors that I felt like I wanted, so I did my own chart. So as you can see, most of mine for January is very similar colors being repeated because we had a lot of similar temperatures throughout the month, except for a couple over here. We had some colder days. And after she sent this pattern out, so if you were to go get this now, I think she would have the updated version. I don't know if she gives you an option of having both if you want. So originally her pattern was showing you going all the way down one wing and then all the way down the other wing. And then she sent an updated one. She said, I really kind of had wanted to do it this way, and I didn't send it out with the orders, is to bounce back and forth with your days. So that, if the beginning of January is colder and the end of January was warmer, then it would kind of be more symmetrical as you went down. So I am kind of doing that. I am bouncing back and forth, and as you can see, it didn't really matter. Most of January was very similar in color or temperatures, except for those 2 days. So it didn't really matter. We'll see what February does. I've got a feeling it might get a little warmer as we get down towards the end. I love this because it just looks so much like stained glass. So pretty, so pretty. So that's what I've gotten done so far on that. Now, another one that, like I said, I showed you, I think in December, but I don't think I showed it in the January. And that is this one, that Sleeping Beauty. So, as I mentioned, I have gotten a lot done on this. I'm getting very close to being probably almost finished. I'm going to fold this so that I can hold it a little bit better. Hold it up because it's kind of wide. There we go. That's how much I've gotten done so far. I have, so let's see. You can see, oh yeah, there you go. So there is stitching here because she's wearing white gloves, and then her paler arm part is up here. This side still has another band of pink, my gold cryonite, get that out of the way, A little bit more pink to go along here, but it is almost as wide as that side's going to be. I still have to do her arm on this side though. So the main stitching part of it will be done after that, but then I still will have some other things to do. In the chart, it shows vines, you know, all amongst these flowers going up. Just from the picture, and I know sometimes the pictures aren't the greatest, it didn't look as nice to me to do that as just leaving it the way it is. So I'll show you up close. It just, the nice blending of the blue into the pink with the flowers. I think it looks lovely the way it is. So I don't know if I'm going to put those vines for the flowers in there, because it's using Krynic, I think. I'd have to go back and look. I haven't got that far yet, so I'm not sure. Up here, there is some spots. So there's some stitching here, but there's a lot of off and on, off and on, off and on, and some holes in here. So that will get filled in with beads. There is some detailing of gold in this part, and I think I will put that in there because that's kind of plain right now. So I will put the gold detail in there. There's some beading up here in this top part. And then of course there is the rose that you make, the bouquet of roses, and then the trailing ribbons. And so I'll show you that again real quick. So you can see that's what that is supposed to look like right here. And then you've got ribbon that trails off. I haven't decided whether I'm going to put the fairies or the crown on. So you just have this crown that's floating here, and then the fairies kind of flying around a little bit. I haven't decided yet. Not quite sure. So once again, I'll show you the whole thing. That's how much, as I said, it is almost done. Very, very close. I love this. So pretty. So pretty. So those are my whips and new starts and all that good stuff. So I do have a purchase of a sort, and then a find that I found at a thrift, antique store. And then probably life updates as well as a little bag information. So the purchase, let me get a hold of this. The purchase that I did was I am going to do part of the Fab 50 Stitch Along. So when I say sort of a purchase, I did purchase it, and you do get the pattern for the outline. So let me see if I can show you, because it's not the pattern, it's just a diagram. So you can see, you're going to have that. And then each of those squares is going to have a character, because Disney is celebrating their Disney World, I should say, is celebrating their 50th anniversary. And throughout the parks in Disney World, they have put these gold statues everywhere. And those are the Fab 50. So this is those Fab 50s in stitching form. As I said, the outline frame part of it is out, but the characters are not going to be released until, let me see, it's either May or June. I can't remember now. June 2nd is when the first character gets released. And I think they said they'll release 2 characters for each week. So you're going to get a lot, and a lot fast. And even though they're releasing 2 per week, it's not going to end until September 29th. That will be the last one. That's a lot. Now, they say that's part 35. So I think sometimes when you get these parts released, you're going to get a couple characters within those parts. So you may have more than 2 characters per week to stitch. Yeah, so there's 35 boxes, but I think some of the boxes are really wide and you have a couple characters in there. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of stitching really fast. So it'd be really cool to be able to do that. We are going to Disney in a couple of months, partially because we are Disney people and we go quite often. But also in celebration of the 50th, we wanted to be there for that. So we'll be there and get to see the actual statues as well as being able to stitch them. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I mean, it'll be a while before you start seeing anything, but yeah, eventually you will. The purchase I got at an antique store. I walked in and was not looking for anything like this. I had something else in mind that I was trying to find and just happened to come across this. First thing I saw just about when I walked in this store, and there was no doubt, no question, it was coming home with me. So it's kind of along the lines of the SOS, or Save Our Stitches, Save Old Stitches, however you want to think of it. So not only did I want to do that, but I really, really liked it. It's lovely. So this is what I found. It is so cool. I love the sentiment. I love the pattern and the colors and everything about it. So can I show you up close some of it? And it's clearly old. It's got, you know, a little bit of stain marks in it. But yeah, it's lovely. I really, really, really like it. So I'll show you what the back looks like. It's kind of scary. I don't know if they glued it or what, but there's, yeah, it's something else. That's for sure. Yeah, the frame's a little bit beat up in spots, but otherwise it's so nice. I haven't quite decided where I'm going to hang it. I had one idea of what I wanted to do, and I've kind of changed my mind, and still not 100% sure that I'm going to put it in the spot I was thinking of, or even the once, you know, when I changed my mind, it's like, still don't know if I'm going to put it there yet either. So I don't know. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit of life update stuff, and then I'm going to show you some other stuff. Most of it has to do with my mother-in-law, and that's typically our update because that's what's monopolizing our life right now. We had quite the month with her this month. It's been, wow, I just can't believe all this happened in such a short amount of time. So probably not long after my last video, the place that she's staying, so she's in assisted living right now, they called and said that she was on the floor and she was in so much pain they couldn't even get her up, so they wanted permission to call the ambulance. So, or 911 I should say, because sometimes people who fall, all they need is like the fire department to help them get off the floor. And you can do that. You can call 911 and have them help them get off the floor. They don't need to necessarily go to the hospital. But because she was in a lot of pain, that needed a little bit more. We needed to take her to the hospital. This was like 11 o'clock at night. So we get this call. We live about a half an hour from her. So we decided to go ahead and head in, and we actually, I can't remember if we found this out before we actually left or not, as to which hospital they were going to take her to. There is one that's probably about 15 minutes away that would be close to us. So kind of between where we live and where she lives. If they were to take her there, that would have been the closest one for us. There's another one that's probably just a little bit farther than that. That's kind of to the west of where she lives. And then there's another one that's more north of where she lives. That's still a good half hour from where she lives. So we didn't know which hospital that they were going to take her to. We had to wait, find out. But it seems like we had called the hospital before we left and found out some information, and that's why I'm thinking we knew before we left where we were going to end up going. They were going to take her to the half hour one away, because the other ones, I don't think they could take her. They were full or something. So we had a long drive ahead of us. It's going to take at least an hour to get there. And we asked before we left my husband found out that they could only have one person in the emergency room with her. And he asked, well, if my wife comes, is there somewhere for her to wait? Because you can't wait in the waiting room right now. They said, yes, we have a cafeteria. She could probably go up there and wait. Okay, I will go. My husband wanted me to come. I completely understand. There's a lot going on. So we drive all the way up there. We get to the front door, and of course they're screening you, taking your temperature and everything. And that's when they say, well, you know, there's only one person that's allowed to wait in the waiting room or the room with her. And we said, yes. We called, and they said that I could wait in the cafeteria. And they're like, no. The only people allowed to go in the cafeterias are patients or the people that are approved to go into the rooms with them, which would only be one person, which is going to be my husband. Well, we were told on the phone it was going to be okay. Well, we're really sorry that they told you that, but that's not the case. It is now like midnight. Actually, no, this was not the one that was that late. This was earlier in the day because it was before dinner. But it's still cold. It's cold enough that you don't want to stand outside, and there's nowhere else in the hospital to wait. They say, well, you could go up to the other entrance, was where you have to go to get to the cafeteria, and see what they say. And I was very irritated and very mad that they had told us this, and it's not like we live close by. Where am I going to go? Who knows how long it's going to take for her to be here? There's nowhere for me to go. So I did not want to go ask, because I didn't want to be told, no, you can't go, and have to deal with all of that again. Try and explain everything and whatnot. I was just irritated. And so at that point, I'm just digging my heels in, and I'm just stubborn. I'm not going to go ask. I don't want to at this point. So I sat in the car, freezing. So it turned out they did a bunch of scans, ultrasounds, I think, as well, blood work, all that kind of stuff. It turns out she had blood clots in both legs. And one of the legs, it was a fairly sizable blood clot that didn't seem to either be really attached or barely attached. They also found nodes in her lungs and thyroid. They also had said there was blood clots in her lungs. A lot going on. Like, holy mackerel. So they were waiting on, I think, one of the scans to come back before they started any kind of medication for her. Long story short, they ended up getting her on blood thinner, and that is going to help take care of the clots. And if you didn't know, if you do have blood clots, your body, they don't do anything. They don't typically go in for surgery unless there's a problem, a serious problem. The body will absorb blood clots, and the blood thinner helps the blood to get past those and to deal with all of that that's in your body. So they were waiting for some information before they started that. They did eventually start the blood thinner. They did eventually, because she was in the hospital for about a week, they did eventually do surgery on the one blood clot that was large and wasn't really that attached. They were worried about it breaking off and causing a stroke or whatever other problems that could potentially happen if it did that. They also did a biopsy on the nodes in her thyroid. They didn't do the ones in her lungs because lung biopsies are horrendous. So they did the one on her thyroid and found out but that was benign. So they're guessing the rest of them are going to be benign. So she did all that and then eventually was able to come home. At the end of the hospital stay, we started noticing that her memory was a little worse than it had been before all this had started. So after the surgery, they had put on these almost like blood pressure cuffs around her legs. You know, they're trying to keep the blood moving throughout the legs and such. It didn't tighten as tight as a blood pressure cuff. If you've ever had any hospital stay, they put one on you practically permanently, and it just automatically goes off every so often, constantly taking your blood pressure, and it squeezes hard. Well, they're not that bad on the legs, but it does do that. It continuously turns on and off to try and keep that blood going through there and helping with those clots. So she had those on. She saw them when she came out of surgery, later that day when she was a little more with it. The next day, at one point when my husband was visiting, she needed to go into the restroom, and of course they have to unhook her from all this kind of stuff. And when the blankets were moved for the cuffs, she's like, oh, what are those? So she had forgotten what those are, or that she had them. So there was a lot of that. She's also become a lot less steady in walking. So because of that, as well as now that she's on blood thinners, she's going to have to use a walker for the rest of her life. Because any kind of falls, if she has any kind of bleeding, whether it's external or internal, she could potentially bleed to death. So they want to minimize the risk of falls. So she needs to use a walker. So we were hoping that maybe once she got home and maybe she would be able to get moving some more. They wanted to do physical therapy so that, get her stronger so she could keep walking and whatnot. And we were hoping with all of that maybe the brain function will improve a little bit. We're not so sure that it has. It took a while for this physical therapy stuff to get authorized and to get going, so it was at least probably a couple weeks. She's doing it now, but we're kind of at the point where she's needing much, much more help in her room. It's really hard to have a conversation with her because she just either doesn't comprehend, and of course, just like anybody else, she has good days, she has bad days. So she either doesn't comprehend what you're saying, or she never finishes answering. She'll start a sentence and just trail off and doesn't finish. So we're at the point now where we're going to see with this physical therapy and being able to move around a little bit more, is she capable of staying in the assisted living portion a little longer, or do we need to move her to memory care at this point? They do have some rooms available in memory care right now, which just, maybe a month ago when this all happened, there was not room, and there are now. So she could potentially move over and there would be a room available for her. So we're still processing that and figuring out we're in a wait and see at this moment. We'll see what the next few weeks, hold for us, and then probably have to make a decision at that point. So yeah, that's a lot. And she ended up having to go to the hospital another time because she said she was in so much pain at one point, laying in her bed. We kind of wish they had called us first, because that was a late night one. That was one that was at 11 o'clock, and they did take her to one of the closer hospitals at that point. And within 2 hours, they had taken blood, and that's the only test they had done. And they said she was fine, and within 2 hours, they were ready to let her go home, and she acted like she wasn't in pain anymore. Or at least not the severe pain she was claiming when they first took her in. So, yeah, we don't know what's really going on, and she's at the point where she can't really explain it enough for us to help her. So, we'll see. Pray for us that we know the right decision to make at the right time. So that's kind of where we're standing with that. Okay, let's go into, I have 2 new bags. I only made 2 because last time that was a lot that was going on. I don't know that I want to do that anymore. The only reason I do a lot that I was thinking of is that gives people more options to pick, because I know a lot of times they don't want to just order one thing. They may want to order 2, and that way it had a lot more options. But I think I'm just going to have to stick with the smaller amounts, and that way you can kind of go back and look at previous stuff that's out there and maybe combine new stuff with some stuff from a month or 2 ago. So that's kind of how I'm leaving it. This month as well, even though I know February is, Valentine's, and that's just around the corner from this video. I mentioned this in the last video. There's not a lot of Valentine type of fabric, really. And I know not everybody wants a holiday based one. This is more specifically holiday based, maybe more generic, kind of seasonal that they would like. So I'm, I'll do both. When it's really, really a specific holiday, I might make something for that, but not necessarily. So these are kind of more generic kind of eggs. You're gonna see. Fun. So I will show you the first one. Kind of fun. Our lovely flamingos. You could think of this as kind of Valentine-y because their little heads form kind of a heart. This is that Tula pink stuff fabric, so they have quite some unusual stuff, and you really have to look at the fabric because there's more to it than you really think. So like over here, there's a shrimp, and there's a little shrimp over here, and there's some shrimp here because, I mean, it actually repeats up here if you were to see the fabric. So yeah, they're just cute. They're cute. Zipper fob. If you don't like this and you want something that's just more plain and you just want maybe the colored beads, I can do that. It's not a problem. Here's the back, some pink. It matches the stuff on the front. So fun, 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 fun. So there's one. And this is, I want to say like a 10 by 12 or something. That's what size this is. I can make it smaller, but it's going to end up cutting off something. That's why I made it this size. In order for their feet to be here and their heads, that's why this is that size. I mean, if you only wanted one flamingo, I could, cut it down so it's a little bit smaller or something like this. And then maybe not have all of the feet. There are some other options if you want it smaller, but there's that. The next one needs a little explanation. I have seen this fabric for quite a while, several months at least, and I've always thought, wow, that's unique, that's different. I don't know if I like it or not. Some people like it, clearly, so maybe somebody on here will like it and want to use it. It's definitely different. So now the fabric the part that I pulled out or cut out and used in the bag isn't so bad. When I show you the rest of the fabric, you're going to understand. So here you go. Lovely little seaside with the women and the little girl playing with the ball and such. So that, I did a little flip-flop with some of the colored beads. My cat's making noise back there. Some lovely mottled blue to match kind of the sky. Then we have this yellow, kind of reminds me of the sand. So yeah, got a lot of cute stuff there. This is only 7 by 9 type bag. Obviously I can make them bigger. So here's what I want to show you is the options that you can do with the rest of this fabric. Are you ready for this? It is so funny. So funny. These big old girls. Big old girls. So I'll show you some of the other parts. So here's 3. Here's a couple eating ice cream. Here's some ladies having something. Here's some having wine on the beach. Okay. So this is what you've got as options. A couple more ladies over there. But yeah, and then it repeats and for the different types of stuff, images that you could have. They're just, I don't know what to think of these, but I think it's kind of interesting and kind of fun. So if you wanted to have that, you could. So we can do cat's scratching on stuff over there, making all kinds of noise. If you want to have something with the little flip-flop, you can do that on any of these images. But because some of them have to do with wine, I do have these options. So this is a wine bottle. This looks like a corkscrew kind of thing. This is I love a wine lover, and then there's a little bundle of grapes. So there's lots of options to have to go with the wine part of this if you wanted that. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Now, this time I did not make any of the little floss files like I did last time. Hang on a minute. I had to make her stop. That was driving me crazy. So I didn't make any of the floss files this time. You can have those. And I try to put that in the description. I don't know how many people read through the description as much. So sometimes visuals are better. But yeah, you can have floss files for those. Something I don't mention that often is you can have Grime Guards made if you want. I can do a Grime Guard with this or any other fabric as long as I have enough. I don't typically make those because people have so many various sizes of Q-snaps or round hoops or whatever that it's just kind of hard to know what size is a typical size that most people might want. So I like to wait on those until I know exactly what size people are using, and that way I'm not wasting, basically. I'm making the size as people need it. So yeah, those are all options as well. And typically, I mean, you can go on and see past things of how much I've put them on there for and sold them for. So like if you use an 11 by 11 Q-snap, typically the Grime Guard's about $11. So you can kind of base, it's usually based on about the size of the frame as what it ends up costing. So yeah, that is that for bags, and I believe that is it for everything. As I mentioned, I haven't put my hands on as many things because I've been a little bit more monogamous stitching, especially on the Sleeping Beauty. And the butterfly one doesn't take very much time each day. If you do it each day, some people wait and do a whole week's worth. But yeah, I just haven't picked up as many projects. I'm kind of wanting to at this point, and especially since the Sleeping Beauty is almost done, I probably will have a few more varied things that I do in the next video, unless I find something else to be more monogamous on. I don't know. I don't know. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. Something I kind of mentioned that I want to do more in the spring and summer is I want to get out on more outside activities. Now, I have done a lot of yard work kind of stuff, so I'm outside doing that, but I want to do more fun activities. So I want to get out and do more hikes this year. I want to get out and do more bike rides this year, kayaking, all that kind of stuff. And I know work usually picks up more in the summer, so I'm busier with work. I'm busy trying to get that yard work stuff done, whatever that may be. So that leaves very little time to go do some of this other stuff. But I am really going to try and do that a little bit more often. So that's kind of a goal for the next 6 months or whatever it is, however long the weather is good for. So I think with that, we are going to be done. And thankfully, this time it's less than an hour. It's only about 45 minutes, maybe a little less. And yeah, that's all I've got for you. Hopefully you're having a great week, great month. For those of us here in the States that you're not struggling too much with the weather for winter. Anywhere else that you might have, potentially if you're in the summer, that you're not dying of heat. Some of us do. We always wish for the season that's not there at the moment. But yeah, hopefully you're having a good time and getting lots of stitching done. And with that, I will see you next month. Bye.